Good afternoon. Welcome to today's session, Unit 12 of the PPM course. Today we are going to talk about the brand architecture and brand extension as the various strategies to handle the brands better. In this unit, we'll go through the concept of brand architecture, what are the components, how to create a brand architecture strategy, and perhaps build and go on to explain how to build a brand portfolio and rationalize if necessary at a given point of time. We will also refer to something called the brand hierarchy. And last but not least, we are talking about what is the concept of brand extension as a branding strategy, a strategic decision, and what are the different types of extensions, and what are the how do you launch new brand extensions. So let's get going. Have you looked at any kind of a product portfolio of any company, something like the Coke, like Coca-Cola per se? You will find they have different kind of beverages in terms of Coke, Fanta, Limca, Thumbs Up, at least in India. And if you see these, there are multiple such brands. If you look into HUL, similarly, you will find across different soaps, detergents, there are multiple brands which are available. At a global level, these companies have something like 300 to 400 odd brands which are offered to the markets across the globe. HUL could be having something nothing less than 200 brands available only in India. So how do you manage that? It is a humongous task to not only not only create, nurture, but grow these brands and can look into the brand's sustenance in the longer period of term. And what happens is as you go along, the competition catches up, and as the customer becomes more picky or choosy about the products that they want to buy, you will find that the architecture or the kind of portfolio that you offer to the marketplace becomes an important consideration for the brand managers into how to manage and balance it. So we will be looking into those kind of parameters when we are looking into the brand architecture. So to give you kind of a sense as to why we need a brand architecture is basically it relates to how you structure the offerings to the marketplace in terms of your brands, what kind of portfolio you maintain, how do you ensure that these brands become very strong over not only when you start, but it goes on to becoming establishing as a very strong brand and sustain the benefits to the customers as well as to the firms. But at the same time, they should also bring in a clarity whenever you are offering this, the structure of these brand offers. One should also have a clarity in terms of how are they distinct from each other, how are they differentiated from each other, or what are the commonalities that they are associated with. So it helps to track the brands and help them in managing them in future. So just to put you into a nutshell, we will talk about in this diagram, as you can see, the brand architecture talks about developing a brand architecture strategy, brand portfolio analysis, and how to handle something called the brand hierarchies, and also the corporate branding, because branding is not necessarily related to only products but also to the companies. So we will look into two major important roles that in a brand architecture, as we have already seen in brand equity, the concept of brand awareness and brand image. Because when you talk about brand awareness, it talks about the identity part of it, because this is what the firm offers to the marketplace, and the image is something which is formed in the minds of the customer once they have been associated with the brands, or they have utilized the brand, or have purchased the brand and utilized it. So let's roll on to what kind of brand architecture strategies are. So if you see with the first parameter, first step that we look into brand architecture, it gives you a kind of a structure or a way to handle the brands that are offered by the firm. And of course, how are they related to each other? How are they not related to each other? Is there a kind of a clarity in their offering? Those kind of things. So developing a brand architecture is a very complex matter and requires the following steps. The first thing is developing a brand potential, defining the brand potential, what we call as a brand vision. Every brand has a certain boundary which it needs to define going forward, because there are certain limitations in form of the whether the brand can go beyond it. For example, Ponds is a talcum powder from HUL, but then if you want to make a toothpaste out of it, or if you want to pitch something in toothpaste or a perfume may be to some extent possible, but if it talked about, let's say, food item, can that be extended? So obviously it cannot be. So when you talk in terms of the growth of a brand, all brands have certain boundaries and they need to define it. Like in the case given here, Maruti has set boundaries by offering their automobiles. Beyond automobiles, they can go for it as an opportunity. But then when you talk about branding, you need to go for a completely different set of branding activity for them. Right? So we need to understand these limitations that are there with the extent to which we can define the boundary and stay within that and offer products within those brands and try to make better mileage out of it. Another good example which is mentioned here is the Toyota. Toyota offers a luxury car called Lexus. But if you see the architecture of Toyota, Lexus is put upon as a separate brand entity in the brand relationship spectrum, because consciously the company does not want their Toyota image to have any kind of a saying. They have their own logo. Lexus has its own logo. It does not use a Toyota logo at all. It is standing on its own. But it's a part of the offering that the company has in the luxury segment. So sometimes the importance of what you are offering to the target audience, the kind of target audience you have identified with a specific message, you need to have a different kind of a vision or a brand vision. Of course, your brand vision is supported by the positioning or the image that your brand tries to carry forward. It can be both. It should highlight both the positives and the functionalities, the emotional or the functional benefits as the brand may be possessing. At the same time, if you see last class, we talked about something called the point of parities and the point of differences. Mostly when you talk about positioning, we of course refer mostly to the point of differences, which needs to be highlighted in order to differentiate the brand from the rest of the competition. But having said that, we also look in the point of parities. The second most important point in terms of the brand architecture while you're developing brand architecture is identifying what can be the extension possibilities for your brand. When we talk about extension possibilities, what we mean by that is that whether we can launch new products and services from the existing product categories or the product class. So when you are looking into, there are two types of extensions possible. One is called the line extension and one is called the category extension or the brand extensions. So when you extend or add new products within the existing product category or within the product line, it is called the line extension. So when you talk about, say for example, the Bed Shakti toothpaste example which has been highlighted here, when you come up with new brands, but it's Colgate with Shakti, Colgate gel, Colgate mouthwash or whatever it is. So you are talking in terms of line extension under the Colgate toothpaste category. But if it is something across the category, it can also, when you can talk in terms of the new product categories which is added on, then in that case, suppose say Colgate mouth spray or mouth protect spray. That is a category extension. That means you are extending the same name to new product in the marketplace. Now let us get on to how would you use the relationship matrix in terms of creating your brand elements for new products and services. This is called the relationship matrix because if you're talking in terms of the relationship spectrum within which the brands are offered, there are two situations that you can find out, which is called as the house of brands or branded house. So on one extreme, you find that in this case, the example of Apple has been given, where the branded houses, there's only one brand name which represents, under which all the offerings that the company has are put under. So they always come under the the master brand of say Apple. So you grow it under one name, that is called branded house. Whereas on the other extreme, you find that there is house of brands. Like if you look into the FMCG companies like HUL, Unilever, or P&G, they have a cluster of brands which are individually branded. They are independent of each other. They are a combination of brands, and they may not have any kind of relationship. So if you see in the branded house, whatever products which are there, they have a very strong relationship. If you go to the house of brands, the relationship between the brands may not exist. So it is a lose-lose end. But then in between, you find there are offerings which are made by other companies where they try to leverage on the kind of the linkage that they have with the existing brands. So these linkages are appearing in form of something called the endorsed brand. Like in case of Microsoft Xbox, you are talking about an Xbox which is endorsed by Microsoft, and in its branding, the name Microsoft would be etched strongly. In case of Unilever, it do not need that. As you go into co-brand ingredients, like in case of your laptops, when you go for laptops, you will find that the processor is co-branded as an ingredient with the particular brand. Like for example, Lenovo has got the processor. It could be the Intel processor, the i7 or i5. It is very well embossed in the packaging of the brand as well. And whenever you are talking in terms of the offering, it is co-branded. Co-branded means two or more brands when they come together to offer the products to the customers. And basically the customer is the same. Ingredient means it is a part of the product. So hence it cannot be, you cannot take it away from them. But co-branding efforts can also may not be ingredients. Like for example, when a iPhone is tagged along with, let's say, Airtel services. So that's also kind of a co-branding. But in this case, we are looking into ingredient co-branding. There's a case of sub-brands, as you can see. Under Samsung, we have Galaxy, which is under the Samsung, and it is flown as a sub-brand where is a very strong relationship under the company name Samsung. So what happens is that you will find that this Galaxy initially requires that help from the company's name to establish itself in the marketplace, and then further look into leveraging out in the marketplace. So sub-brands obviously has a very distinct kind of a name, but some of the sub-brands also over a period of time become very strong and then can move towards on their own. They become more independent. Like for example, the Fast Track under Titan, it came as a sub-brand under Titan, which is a part of Tata Group. But then over a period of time, it has become so strong that it does not require the linkage with the company name of Titan. So today, when you look at Fast Track, nowhere will you find that Titan name is mentioned. So it is being able to establish on its own. Just like I was talking about the Lexus. Lexus is not a sub-brand, but then it is an independent brand. In this case, a sub-brand can become an independent brand on its own and can move down the lane. So today, if tomorrow's Galaxy can stand on its own feet, given the way it grows in terms of the customer adoption. Now let's look at what are the guidelines to build a brand architecture. Of course, as I told you before, it is very, very important that we must look into the norms and principles that consistently help us to design the architecture, because it helps us to define what kind of brands we want to bring in, what kind of brands we want to hold on, what are the brands we want to make strong, and then have a portfolio which is a very balanced portfolio as we go across. And then it should be rendering positive rub off in terms of the image as well as the market share. So let's look into some of the guidelines which are required to optimize the brand architecture. As you can see here, the first step is that the company should focus on the customer. This is needless. We have already been talking about it, that the customer focus is critical for any company while building brands. And then obviously the customers know and expect what they expect from the brand has to be known to the companies or the brand managers so that they can bring in the changes. Secondly, you must also have brands which can be floated or can be developed as family or umbrella brands so that you can maximize the synergies that are there without incurring additional cost. But there is also a kind of a risk that is there. You cannot keep on expanding your brands, in a portfolio and go to a point where you are resulting in either overburdening the architecture or overburdening the portfolio, or you're extending to an extent where it snaps. So one has to understand that over branding or too many brands in the portfolio can become very cumbersome in terms of handling them going forward. We also need to be very careful about the sub-branding strategy which we talk about, because the sub-brands basically strengthen the parent brand by communicating the relatedness and distinctiveness. But as I told you before, that when it gets introduced, it comes under it strengthens the parent brand by giving something very unique to the marketplace. But over a period of time, it can stand on its own feet, and they can decide, and you can decide whether you want to retain the company name or that parent linkage, or you don't want to have it. So that is another important thing. Then comes the extension parameter, which you have already reflected in my previous earlier, that brand extension strategy cannot be done arbitrarily. It has to basically be seen from the point of how it adds value to your portfolio, whether it makes sense to extend it in terms of the equity that it wants to, or in terms of brand value it wants to achieve from the marketplace. And then, of course, you should look into that the brands which are acquired and are added to your portfolio or added to your brand architecture, they should be aligned to the requirements. For example, some brands, Savlon has been acquired by ITC, so it has to come within the parameter. Of course, when you acquire brands, the brands also come up with certain images earlier, but we can tweak it and you can make some changes to align to your current brand architecture, so that you can reposition or rebrand it so that it gels well with your kind of brand architecture or brand portfolio. Because if the acquired brands which you can acquire as you grow, if they do not align, they can have a very negative impact on the equity of the brand. Next, we move into the brand portfolios, which is another part of your brand architecture. So when you talk about brand portfolios, what kind of brands should you have in the portfolio, which will help in maximize the brand equity, and it can be the brand managers can leverage out of it as we go along. You will find in the portfolio there are a number of brands which are multi-brands are offered, but one would ask, so why would one do that, right? The answer lies in that you want to reach out to maximum number of customers with as varied taste and preferences, or variety, because customers look for varieties. So obviously, in terms of you not to reach to that, to cater to that particular diverse needs or wants, you obviously need to have multiple brands. But then, having said that, you may find that in companies who are dealing with the same products may have 2-3 variants in the marketplace, or multiple variants in the marketplace, to create better or to maximize sales. Sometimes it also helps you to dominate the shelf space at the retail counters. So it helps in terms of creating dominance in the marketplace. But it depends upon what kind of product brands you want to bring it into the portfolio. So few initiatives or decisions, as you can call them, can be taken to enhance your portfolio. One are the flankers. These are the brands which are introduced in the marketplace by the brand manager, basically to fight back competition. See, sometimes back, I told you about the Surf as an example. Surf by HUL faced a big problem when Nirma was launched almost at half the price in the marketplace, and they did not have something to fight back. So Wheel was, after doing a lot of research, it was found that the Wheel could be brought into the marketplace to fight back the challenge which is posed by Nirma. You will find that even in case of now in India, we also look into PNG giving aerial and tide as two separate, though in some international market aerial and tide are the same, but in India they are two separate markets. In some other markets also tide and aerial are two separate brands which are offered at different price points. Here the case of Tata Agni has also been talked about, in addition to the surf example which I gave you, where it tried to give a low price variant to the marketplace to strengthen the portfolio so that the premium brand is protected. So fighter brands help in as a defensive mechanism in the portfolio management analysis. Cash cows, as the name suggests, they are mostly retained by the companies because they have the ability to get more revenues, and one can leverage out of that by entering into multiple product categories. So here, cash cows are basically the companies would like to have it in the portfolio so that you can extend it into other new offerings in the marketplace and can leverage out of it in terms of their capacity. Because cash cows, as the name suggests, brings in more money, is able to get more revenues because of the equity it has in the marketplace. The other initiatives which you can take for brand portfolios are the low-end entry or the lower parameters. Here, what happens is that you launch low-end products or entry-level products into the marketplace to attract the customers in the market, so that sometimes it so happens that in your portfolio you are offering a brand which is only attending to a particular class. So here what happens, you are getting into either an upward or a downward. When you get into an upward or downward stretch, you have to launch brands which can be looking into the kind of takeaways that the customers are meant for, our customers are expecting from you. So obviously the low level entry brands definitely leverage on the kind of the parameters which are basically parameters which help the customers associate with them because of the penetration level it tries to achieve. And it can also help in the line stretching. Line stretching, as you know, we talked about in product management, where you're talking about upward stretch and downward stretch. So you can strip certain things and introduce new products in the marketplace. I gave you an example of Centro Economy when it was launched to offer a product at a less than 3 lakhs as a variant in the marketplace to basically cater to the price sensitive customers in the small car segment. But that was way back, but now that is no longer the situation. The scenario has changed dramatically. Understand, though, like you have a low price entry, there's a possibility to enter into the high end, which is basically called the prestige brands. Obviously, as the name suggests, you want to attract to the high end of the market and try to make better, or it could be a niche segment that you could be looking at to cater to in the marketplace. Here again, Lexus comes as a very classic example to enter the luxury segment, which is a high-end segment, or it's a prestige brand for the Toyota. Sometime back, Maruti had launched as the example which has been shared here is perfectly fits to the requirement. We had a brand called Kizashi, which is no longer there, but it failed miserably. Unlike the Lexus, which did extremely well, was doing extremely well, Kizashi as a brand which was offered in the marketplace by Maruti as a prestige brand at a higher level definitely did not resonate with the customers, and it went a premature exit. So we got to understand that the kind of offerings that you do, whether it's a flanker, whether it's a cash cow, or whether it is a low end or a high end, would depend on various parameters that the portfolio is. Whether the portfolio needs strengthening, we need to look at whether the portfolio can be managed, or we have to look for revitalizing the portfolio. Revitalization means basically you're trying to increase the market coverage or minimize the brand overlap. If you're talking about brands are very cluttered in the marketplace, that overlapping, if you want to minimize, you want to have very separate kind of portfolios where critically you look into the differentiation or the positioning of the brands in the marketplace, so that the distinct benefit or the attribute which you are trying to offer to the target audience can be captured. And if you look into here, there are a few strategies which are used to basically go for the rationalizing of the brand portfolio. Let us discuss some of them. Obviously, companies do go for liquidation where of certain brands if they find that it is no longer being able to uh, give you the revenues which is meant to, or it is not as per your expected returns. So they discharge, they terminate it and utilize their assets and so that it does not remain as a liability. Merging, you could merge with another brand, if because if it helps to strengthen that particular offering, you would like to merge into one brand so that the merger could lead to a very strong brand. This can happen primarily because of the cannibalization effect. If two brands which are offered are very closely in terms of benefits they are offered in the marketplace, it can lead to a cannibalization effect, which means that when you are offering two brands, one would eat away the market of the other. So when that happens, the brand which was there, some of the brands do get affected, and it creates more confusion in the minds of the people rather than a clarity. And that is not a very good way of handling the brand portfolio. Looking into this, selling of the brand is an option where you will find that many times brands do get sold off, get acquired. So this is a case which was in the Lakme brand, which is a very unique brand of Tata's, exchange hands when it was sold off to HUL. Another could be the Parley Agro, which sold off, or which was acquired in Thumbs Up, which was acquired by Coca-Cola when they entered in 1996 in the Indian market, because they found that in their portfolio, Coca-Cola was a major threat to them, and being a big player in the marketplace, it always makes sense to offer this brand to be acquired and be put into the Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola range of portfolios. Whereas for Parley Group, they could make money out of having the selling of Thumbs Up, which was one of the pioneering brands as far as the cola market is concerned. It was dominating the Indian market space. Milking is done obviously when you want to derive maximum sales, and you'd want to maybe at some point of time want to get out of this market, but you don't want to invest anything anymore in the product and find the product is perhaps losing the market share, the growth rates are falling. Hence, you try to we call milk the brand. That is a term which is not referred to that. That you try to derive maximum from the market and then take a call in terms of whether you want to stay in it or you don't want to stay in it. The elimination is almost in the same line as the liquidation. The only thing is that you don't merge or do anything, but you just, because the product becomes obsolete, finds no acceptance, no kind of differentiation in the marketplace. As a result, it is showing falling sales. So you would like to take it out and maybe substitute the market with a much better product, like what they did with Maruti did it with WagonR and Alto. So today, if you see, earlier Maruti 800 was the breadwinner for Maruti. Today, Alto is the breadwinner because the numbers are huge when it comes to, our WagonR is huge to make the product or the portfolio stronger. So many times you eliminate or weed out the weaker brands as the time goes, and they lose their resilience in the marketplace. Consolidation is done when your brand is performing well and you would like to build the brand into a very strong portfolio, a portfolio of very strong brands, each brand offering some kind of positive return ROI to your initiatives. Next, we go to the brand hierarchies. A brand hierarchy is nothing but a graphic representation of the different brands which are offered by the as part of the company's branding strategy. So it captures the potential branding between the company's products and services, and it just can be put in form of a kind of a graphical sense As you can see it here, we'll take the example which have been given here. First, look at the levels. The levels in the brand hierarchy, it starts off with something like the corporate company brand, which starts which is the top of the hierarchy, where you try to associate the strength of your company in terms of your brand, and obviously you brand according to the company. So obviously companies like L&T, Dell, any company you talk about, if they have a good brand name, Tata, Adani, they all been able to harp on the company brand name very well, and as a result that can be a plus point for you in terms of your brand hierarchy level. That's the highest level. Then you come to the next level. We are talking in terms of the family or the range brand. Family range brand, we have already talked about that in the branding strategy, where you're trying to grow a brand name as a family, looking into various product categories, multiple product categories and product classes, and then they're brought under the that particular brand name, not necessarily linking with the company's name. So these are called master brands or umbrella brands, as we call it, and you try to grow it under them. There are a few examples which have been given here, like the classmate talks in terms of various kind of office products like notebooks, pencils, and stationery products, which are brought under the classmate under ITC. Similarly, you would have a range of products which are brought it under, let's say, in the Galaxy. You're talking in terms of Galaxy, what kind of smartphones in case of Samsung. Individual brand names, obviously, as I told you, name suggests that we don't require any other name, which is only one particular product, one brand name, which rules basically talks in terms of one product category, and it is used for offering distinct kinds of products within the category. So you can have something like the Mad Angles or Tede Mede, as the case in case of an ITC. And in case of modifier level, you can add certain variations to the existing product, to that the particular brand, and bring out varieties in terms of offering to the marketplace. And product descriptor is nothing but a description of the product of what the brand represents. So if you see the brand hierarchy level, as you can see it here, the higher the level, I mean, the more the brands which are floated here, it gives you more clarity, it gives you better way of handling. So you need to graphically represent how your brand hierarchy looks. But brand hierarchy decisions are critical to take to make your brand hierarchy work. So what are the things that one has to keep in mind, the brand managers have to keep in mind while taking the brand hierarchy? First, obviously, which items have to be introduced and at what level. You have to understand that. That's a very, very critical thing, because you have to think of a brand which can be extended or can be expanded with the potential to expand as the market goes by. So you need to map the growth potential of the brand as you are selecting the items for the brand hierarchy. Secondly, we should need to go for the employee. Which levels would be, while you are offering the brand, at which levels will you be offering the brand, whether it's a corporate level, whether it's the family brand. Of course, family brand may not be feasible, it may be at a individual level, and then as you go on, you can be in family and corporates, and you can get into the modifier. Then comes the level of awareness and associations that each of these brands have to associate with. So at each level, the kind of brand association and awareness that the company has, or the brand has to be further reinforced in order to create better adoption or better affinity with the consumers. Then comes you have to connect the brands with different levels for a product. The relative importance of brand elements, when you look into the brand elements which are used to define a brand identity, becomes very important to create the different levels of the kind of connectedness that they have. Like we talk about Tede Mede, when you talk about in Tede Mede some extensions. So those becomes very critical for you to connect the brands from various levels of a brand. And brand elements help play an important role or help in creating this level of connection. Now, how you then comes the brand names, which are common across different products. When you are looking into brand hierarchy, when you are looking into different product categories that the brand can be extended to, you look into the linkages that you need to establish, or which can the products share, so that you can leverage out of the kind of linkages that the or the connectedness that the products have on the particular brand. So thereby what happens is strengthens the brand. When you say talk about Maggie extended to other products, it strengthens that brand portfolio, and it helps the hierarchy to come across. When you talk about noodles, different atta noodles, the pastas and so on and so forth, you find that it definitely helps the brand go vertical as well as horizontal. So when that happens, the hierarchy is able to give a representation of very strong brand portfolio. Next, we move into that, do we only brand products? We also brand companies. So corporate branding is slightly different from that of a product branding. In case of the corporate branding, the entity is that of a company, unlike in the product branding. Obviously, the considerations for promoting or making corporate brands are also different. We need to look into something like the why the company was thought of. When you look into their values, their missions, their vision statements, and sometimes that is a larger concept in terms of the entity, and the associations also have a wider range. So when we are looking to corporate branding, that factor has to be kept in mind while we are talking in terms of the corporate branding. For example, when you talk about the city bank, the city never sleeps. We're talking about a service from the banking end of a company, which can be 24/7. But then that creates a kind of a very strong, what do you call it, identity in the minds of the customer. And then obviously, these corporate brands are branding is an intangible thing. So it cannot touch and fed. It can only be able to whip up a kind of a feeling with the customers. So when you are looking into the communications of a corporate brand, we generally focus on what is the core of the brand, what is the core philosophy of the brand, and what the company stands for, what the big takeaway that anybody wants to have when it comes to the company's offering. We look into also the other factors like the quality and innovativeness that your company is associated with. For example, your company could be known for design, it could be known for innovation, it could, like in case of Apple, it's known for innovation. So when you're talking about corporate brands like Apple, one has to keep that it has to convey that feeling of quality and innovativeness while you are talking about the brand to them. And obviously it should evoke a very, very positive vibe with the audience. Another thing which one has to look into is today's market with concerns like sustenance, environment factors, and also the gender diversity. These are things which every company forms goals on, sustainable goals. So one has to keep that in mind while you are looking into the corporate branding, because that helps us to give a very, very positive feel in the marketplace, and also to the stakeholders as well as to the prospective investors. If you're talking about an IPO, their corporate branding plays an important role in terms of getting the investors' response. So when you, as a result, the kind of corporate campaigns which are meant for corporate brands have to be very meticulously planned in terms of what kind of social issues or environmental issues or the sustainable models talk of in terms of a big takeaway in terms of the consumer connect. Last but not least, we move into the strategies that are followed for brand extensions. Brand extension, as you know, is a approach which is under the ambit of the family branding or the umbrella branding concept. Because here the idea is that new idea items which are launched under an existing brand name uh, must create, or in a different or a new product in a different product category, each of them should contribute to the overall success of the brand, of the business goal. So when you're looking to the brand extension as a strategy, we need to look at the which kind of brands can be extended, because we cannot go blind in terms of going for an extension arbitrarily. Many a times it has been seen that the brand extensions often fail. According to a study by Nielsen in 1999, they found that FMCG have greater rate of failure, which is around 80%, which is very, very high. And what should we do to look into the extended, how brand extensions can help or can try to mitigate the issue. While we do that, we must also understand, while it tries to mitigate the issue of the kind of problem that we have in terms of, we are also sure that if the extension has been well thought of, right, in terms of assessing the consumer attitudes well, and you're able to compete in terms of your competitive strength, you're able to project the advantage over your competitors, then obviously you'll find that the brand extension definitely works to the advantage of the brand existing brand. Next, we move into what are the different kinds of brand extensions possible. Now, understanding brand extensions also, until unless the brand which you are trying to extend does not resonate or does not create a positive vibe in the marketplace, extension should not be thought about at all. Because if it is, it's a choice for you whether you want to really explore the possibility of extension or not. I have known in many cases where the brands have not gone for extension, been able to get better results, and in some cases, going for extension, they have been able to consolidate their presence in the marketplace better. So when you're talking about the elements that help extended brands in the marketplace for reducing failure, we have to be very, very careful about the kind of choices that we have. Anyways, let's look into going forward the kind of brand extensions that a brand manager is likely to engage. The first and the foremost thing that we talk about is the line extensions. Line extension, as I've told you before, that within the product, the existing product category, if you are bringing in new products, right, and which can basically are which can be basically looking into what you call as the giving better benefits to the customer in terms of the line filling activity, then it helps. But the only concern is that here you are staying within that same product category. You're not going beyond the product category. So you're leveraging your name within the, say for example, Maggi noodles. I am only looking to the noodles for extending the brand name of Maggi within the noodles category. I'm not looking to anything beyond that. So under noodles, whatever the kind of possibilities are there, the whole set of possibilities, I'm able to bring in into the marketplace, and I'm able to give some kind of a sense to fight to the competitors in the marketplace. So you'll find that extending product lines is a very, very attractive proposition for the brand managers, because as we rightly said, why do we go for extension? The idea is to bring in new products within the ambit of an existing brand name, so that it builds on the already established brand name, right? And it leverages, and the person can leverage in terms of its market returns. So it takes lesser time, less money to consolidate their marketplace, because they're already known in the marketplace. So from competitive reasons, sometimes product lines approach or line extension as a strategy, as a branding strategy, becomes a important parameter. In terms of other benefits, like okay, in the retail counters, you are getting more varieties in the marketplace. Obviously, it gives you more shelf space, more visibility in the marketplace, and thereby you are able to consolidate the market. But line extensions can be further divided into two types, the horizontal and the vertical. In case of horizontal, what happens, you are staying within the product class and you're extending the product brand name, the branding for the particular product as it moves within the product class. So for example, in case of the Coke, Diet Coke, Coke and Coke Diet Coke, you will find that it's a horizontal movement because you are giving more opportunities for a healthy conscious person. Like in case of light Horlicks, also Horlicks to light Horlicks to women Horlicks, these are like, we are strengthening within the product line and it is a horizontal kind of a thing. The next kind of line extensions where you're talking in terms of the vertical line. Where vertical line, what happens is that in this case you are launching a product which is related in the same product category but at a different price point. So more or less it remains the same in terms of the same product category, but the kind of attributes it has or the benefits it has, that can be changed or that can be added or deleted, impacting the price parameter. So for price sensitive customer, this would be a very opportune offer. So in this case, vertical extensions can be divided into an upscale extension or a downscale extension. Upscale extension, as the name suggests, that you are trying to give even some more quality at a higher price by factoring in a few features or benefits which the customer is looking for. And of course, you pitched it at a price which is above the earlier option, so that will find finders. Secondly, we are talking, of course, here we need to know also the price sensitivity of the brand, because whether the brand is actually being accepted by the person or not, that is also to be seen. So it's not as if, okay, just put up at a upper price point, people will buy it. No, we have to go further in terms of whether there is, again, do people perceive the value of a upscale horizontal vertical line extension. Okay, the case study which is given is a very interesting case of Tata Harrier, which is at a price of 15 lakhs onwards, has helped to stretch their portfolio upwards. So we are able to give an upward stretch to the product portfolio by getting into the upscale extensions. Downscale extensions, where you talk in terms of we are trying to reduce certain features and you come up with a low price variant in the market, so a certain lower consumer requirement, because everybody is not going to buy the same level of quality. I mean, if you talk in terms of the main product, so what they do is, if you scale it down, perhaps that will be more acceptable to them. Tata Tiago is a very good classic example where you're talking in terms of stretching it down in terms of its features, or it may not be. You keep the features same, you may tweak some features, but you launch it definitely under a lower price strategy than the other competitors in the marketplace. Now this is called a downscale extensions. Going to the category extension. Category extension, as the name suggests, so we are now going, this is a vertical and horizontal within the product line. But there is an opportunity where you're talking in terms of you could be launching a new product altogether in a different category, but you're extending the same name to that. As a result, what happens? You are leveraging the existing brand name in one product category into the other product category. That is why it is called the category extension or a brand franchise extension. In case of a corporate branding, you talk about Reliance, which has gone into multiple brands, and they still think on branding them into a kind of a under the Reliance portfolio, which is called branded house. If the same thing is also seen in case of Tata's, in case of Adani, where most of the products that you are or the categories or new businesses that you are entering, you are extending the brand name of Tata or the corporate brand across various product category to leverage the brand name into other categories, right? And another way of looking at it, when you look into the products which we are using day by day, so we find that in case of consumer products like your Dettol, they are represented as a antiseptic cream, right? In 1993, they were mostly at a strong positioning of a germ protection, which was basically in a brown liquid, which was there in a bottle. But then the brand over the years have entered multiple categories where we are talking about soaps, hand wash, sanitizers, wet wipes, like, and also kitchen utensils, dish cleaning gels, and so on and so forth, and also from certain floor cleaners also, floor cleaner also. In some cases it has worked, in some cases it does not work. The biggest, we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages as we go along. Similarly, Parle is an established name, or Britannia, as you can see, is an established name in the biscuit segment. So they've been able to extend the name brand or the of the company across different segments. So in case of Parle, you're talking about snack, rusk, cakes, atta. The same thing is also seen is in the case of Britannia. So you are able to extend the brand name products under the same brand name to cater to different customer groups. During pandemic, you find that the example as it shows that they are able to, you'll find that companies were desperate to get markets, so to keep them floating. So they went into products which were not very, very distinctly different from what they are into. So though we talk in terms of that as a brand extension, but in terms of its impact, in terms of revenues, in terms of getting benefits from the marketplace, perhaps it will not. It's an extension, it's a brand extension, it's a category extension, but then the category extension may not be helpful. Why is that? These are one of the flip sides of the brand extensions. Next, we move into that. See, brand managers, when we talk in terms of extension strategies, they go into a kind of a fix, because extension strategies, though they are attractive, but in terms of it does not resonate. If it fails in its objective, there is a chance of losing out even on the current existing brand, because if your extensions don't work, it will have a very serious impact on your existing brand. So what is the impact on the existing brand? That's what we're going to assess in terms of whether it's a line extension or it is a brand extensions. So as you can see here, it obviously we list out the benefits. The benefits, definitely the brand image of the parent brand definitely gets reinforced, and it attracts many non-users also to become users, and it helps in increasing market share. And if you look into the associations, obviously, definitely the key association also gets enhanced. As a result, what happened, it will reinforce the key brand association that the brand is standing for, the parent brand. And obviously, if you're getting more number of offers from these current parent brand, it creates better space. It gains more space in the retail counter. As a result, what happens? You're able to create more visibility in the retail counter. And over here, the reputation of the brand can be, capitalized to convince the retailers to keep stocks and promote the brand. It also helps in optimizing the promotional expenditures, because as you know, these are the key benefits of any extension strategy. That why would anybody, why a company or a brand manager will not go for introducing a new brand or go for an extension? One of the key factors is that you're able to economize the cost. to a greater extent when you are staying as a when you're using an extension strategy. And obviously your cost of promotions, the cost of introduction, everything, the product category that it is getting into gets definitely a positive rub off in terms of their businesses. Going into the defense part of the next important part is the defending the brand. When you're talking about extensions, obviously you are strengthening your portfolio by getting into new product categories. You're also minimizing the risk factor that is associated with the brand. If one particular product category does not do well, the other category might do well. Maggie that we talk about has got a range of something which is talking about the coconut powder as a masala. It doesn't work because many things don't work. Like if you add the Maggie pickles, for example, the pickles perhaps did not resonate so well like the ketchups or the noodles or the soups or the now the pastas. Obviously, we can revitalize the brand with respect to your brand extension. So when you are extending the brand across new product categories, you are creating more opportunities and more market share coming through different products that you are offering in the marketplace. As a result, it definitely gives more solidity to your brand portfolio and strengthens the brand. And of course, it revitalizes the brand in terms of its presence in the marketplace. They also obviously, if you're looking into more, it is easier to capture the market with an existing brand name by going for brand extension. It's also important to know that such extension bring in profits. Obviously, end of the day, marketers would do a brand extension because it is going to give in them the profits that they're looking forward to. But brand extensions also have certain disadvantages to their credit as you go, because as I told you before, I had touched upon these parameters that it can confuse if you are with the versions of the new product categories or the within the line when you're talking about especially the product line strategies. It can be really troublesome in terms of confusing the customers, and there can be rejections instead of trying their products. Secondly, you cannot get into arbitrarily extending into any category you feel like, right? For example, here the case of Colgate getting into beef lasagna. We talk about these like kitchen entries. They get into ready-made frozen meals category in comparison to what was their basic association as a oral hygiene product. So the new ones which you are trying to enter, if it is completely out of context, if it's completely beyond what the brand is endorsing, your parent brand is endorsing, it will definitely fall apart. Like I was giving the example of when you're talking about Pond's talcum powder, okay, you can get into vanishing creams, you can get into oils, but if you try to extend it to, let's say, a toothpaste or a toothbrush or a mouth gel, it will not work because the core brand is the essence of the brand gets destroyed. So you cannot get into extending brand extensions over there. Over expansion of brand extension, which is in lieu of that, you want to get into more and more extended products. That is also going to make your brand extendability very large, and it will snap at some point of time. Line extensions, as I told you, within the product line, if you're getting into too much of line extensions and you place your products which are very close by, having very little area of differentiation, it can lead to dilution and also cannibalization. Many times the new product which you're trying to bring in the product line can cannibalize the parent brand, as a result of which your parent brand can suffer. It may also lead to diminishing identification of one with any one of the category. Obviously, if one is becoming very strong, the other one, then what happens is that some of the categories may become, they may lack the identification which it had. Brands like Tata, Reliance, they did adopt corporate branding, but then too much of extensions into this can create into a problem. Another brand that comes to my mind is that of Virgin. They have extended maximum to various products. They have not been able to hold on to these extended strengths. So they have not been able to see the benefits coming up. Brand extension also can help to launch new brands, but then if it is something which is foregoing the opportunity, rather you should launch products which are uh, tie up with the brand elements better rather than this. And as you can see here, there's a launching of a brand can talk about 6 steps, as you can very rightly point, as very pointed out. Let me just run through it as we're running short of time. It should identify the brand that needs to be extended. They have to understand the key associating factors and highlight the alternative definitions of the business. And then we can involve the identification of products to each category. And then in the 5th stage, look into the candidate products out of different products which have been identified, and then get for extending the brand into the, which can be launched into the final stages. Ideally, you should look into the extensions in terms of acceptance, in terms of resonance, in terms of relevance of the brand to the customers. With this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much for your time.